House GOP unveils healthcare bill with no extension of tax credits. Health insurance prices to skyrocket for 22 million Americans. Congress deadlocked over Obamacare subsidies lapse. A big fight over healthcare is exploding in D.C., and millions of Americans could be affected. House Republicans on Friday introduced a new healthcare bill that they plan to vote on next week. They call it the Lower Healthcare Premiums for All Americans Act. The bill includes several ideas Republicans support, like changes to how prescription drug middlemen operate, help for businesses that pay for their own insurance, and expanded group health plans for workers. But the bill leaves out one major issue: the extension of Obamacare health insurance subsidies. These subsidies help about 22 million Americans pay for health insurance through the Affordable Care Act marketplace. If Congress does nothing, these subsidies will end at the end of this year. That could cause health insurance prices to double or even triple for many families starting next year. Republicans are deeply divided over what to do. Conservative Republicans say the subsidies cost too much money and support a healthcare system they oppose. Moderate Republicans warn that letting the subsidies expire would hurt working families and be a political disaster. Because of this pressure, Republican leaders have agreed to allow a vote on an amendment to extend the subsidies. However, party leaders admit the amendment is mostly symbolic. It is unlikely to pass, and even if it did, it could cause the entire Republican bill to fail, due to which conservatives would pull their support. Democrats strongly oppose the Republican healthcare plan. House Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries says the bill would make healthcare worse, not better, and could lead to people losing coverage instead of gaining it. The situation in the Senate is equally serious. Senate Republicans have refused to include subsidy extensions in their own proposal. On Thursday, they blocked a Democratic bill that would have extended the subsidies for 3 more years. A separate Republican plan to replace the subsidies with health savings accounts also failed. As a result, Congress now has no clear plan to stop health insurance costs from rising. These subsidies were a major issue during the recent government shutdown, the longest in U.S. history. Democrats refused to pass a spending bill unless the subsidies were extended. Republicans refused, and public opinion polls later showed most Americans blamed President Donald Trump and Republicans for the shutdown. Now, experts estimate that about 4 million more people could lose health insurance if the subsidies expire. Older Americans would be hit especially hard. The subsidies helped cut the number of uninsured adults aged 50 to 64 by nearly half. Hospitals could also feel the impact, as more uninsured patients would seek emergency care. Medicare costs could rise because people would enter the system sicker and need more expensive treatment. Insurance companies are already preparing for instability in the market. Employers may also be forced to raise health costs for workers. A September study from consulting firm Mercer found that employee healthcare costs could rise 6.5% in 2026, the biggest increase in over 15 years. With the deadline fast approaching, lawmakers face a simple choice: act now to protect health coverage, or leave alone millions of Americans to face much higher costs and lose their insurance.
There are only 5 legislative days left before the Affordable Care Act tax credits expire. And we have yet to see a Republican plan to prevent tens of millions of Americans from experiencing dramatically increased premiums, copays, and deductibles. We know that premium increases, in some cases, will be $1,000 or $2,000 per month. This is going to make healthcare unaffordable for millions of working class Americans, middle class Americans, and everyday Americans. And yet Republicans are are continuing to bury their heads in the sand, completely and totally uninterested in finding common ground to make life better for the American people, in this instance, by extending the Affordable Care Act tax credits. House Democrats remain ready, willing, and able to sit down with our Republican colleagues anytime, any place, and anywhere in order to enact a bipartisan agreement that protects the health care of tens of millions of Americans, to fix our broken health care system, and to deal with the Republican health care crisis decisively, which is crushing the American people. But Republicans continue to pursue a my way or the highway approach, which has gotten them nowhere this year, and it's consistently hurt the American people. All across the country, we are seeing Republican extremism being rejected. Most recently, in the city of Miami, a city that is more than 70% Latino, in a county, Miami-Dade, that Donald Trump just won in 2024. And a year later, a Democrat was elected as mayor of Miami for the first time in nearly 3 decades by 20 points. And yet Republicans continue to ignore the reality that is unfolding all across the country. The American people are rejecting your extremism and embracing our focus on driving down the high cost of living, dealing with the affordability crisis, which is real, it's not a hoax, and fixing our broken health care system. And at this point, all we need are 4 Republicans in the House. There are 220 of you. All we need are 4 Republicans to partner with us. Let's find a path forward, and we can extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits. Questions?
Mr. Leader. Good morning. Thank you. Democrats obviously pushed for the extension of these subsidies during the shutdown. You had a group of Democrats in the Senate who said, give us a vote on health care, we'll reopen the government. Still no solution. Were all of those tactics worth it?
Donald Trump and Republicans control the House, the Senate, and the presidency. They made the decision to shut the government down because they rather shut the government down than extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits. That's not simply my perspective. That's the perspective of the American people, who consistently have held Republicans responsible correctly for the government shutdown. So that's not a question for me to answer. That's a question for Republicans to answer. Why did they shut the government down? We've raised the issue of the Affordable Care Act tax credits, and by the way, the overwhelming majority of the American people are with us. That's not just Democrats and independents. Overwhelmingly, that's a majority of Republicans who believe that the Affordable Care Act tax credits should be extended. 5 legislative days left before tens of millions of people experience dramatically increased health care premiums. Why have we still not seen a plan from Mike Johnson? He's been promising a health care plan for months. It's missing because their plan is to rip health care away from the American people.